Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Bryan Wachter joins us. He's president of the Retail Association of Nevada. Here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Fantastic cocktails and delicious food.
It's a good time to eat.
Over 500 hot slots, plus electronic table games.
It's a good time to play.
Player rewards and big-time jackpots.
It's a good time to win.
Ooh, your good times are Tamarack.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org. A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're pleased to welcome back to the program Bryan Wachter of the Retail Association of Nevada with a new title, President.
Yes, it is good to be here, and yes, with the new title, I'm both humbled and trying to fill Mary Lau's shoes, who's still with retail and providing some mentoring, as well as looking at how we are going to address all of the issues coming up in Nevada over the next decade and two. So I'm excited and always happy to be here with you, Sam.
Okay, thank you and congratulations. So let's start out with the economy for retailers. And the tariffs. There was a story over the weekend in the Wall Street Journal talking about some American businesses are thrilled with the tariffs and want to be a part of this tariff so that they can make more money. What's your take on all this?
Tariffs can be an interesting economic tool as long as there is domestic substitution items, right? If you want to encourage domestic consumption, you raise the price of those foreign goods, and therefore you're making those American goods more competitive. And sometimes you need to do that with U.S. labor costs versus in other places, right? You want to make sure that they're competitive. The problem in some of this with most of these tariffs is that we don't have the substitution goods on a large scale in order to be able to handle that kind of transition. So I imagine, Sam, that there are some economic actors who have the substitution, who are ready and prepared, and they were just looking to break into a market that perhaps had been saturated by foreign goods. I can see definitely those are going to be some success stories. In terms of everyday goods that Americans are using, it's certainly going to be hit or miss depending on what you're putting in your shopping basket.
All right, so you've got a couple of major festivals coming up here. You've got Halloween, which is a biggie. You've got obviously Christmas coming up. What are the outlooks for both of those?
Well, I think it's still a little early for us to certainly be looking at what the holidays over Christmas and November are going to look like. We can point to our back to school release that we put out a couple of weeks ago that showed per capita spending was actually down, not a lot, but by $20. It's one of the first kind of holiday economic windows where we've seen the amount of dollars that each person is intending to spend decrease. And so, whether that's a harbinger in terms of we're going to start seeing that pattern develop, it certainly could go that way. If it was just a blip in the data, we'll know that soon as well. And so, we are looking at, seeing folks who are spending money. And a lot of times what they're doing is they're putting off other purchases in order to keep making sure back to school is successful, making sure Halloween's successful. And so really it's all about that distribution of that individual discretionary pot, Sam.
Are we also seeing something that would be comparable to the gaming industry, where the numbers were so good year after year that at a certain point they had to start decreasing because what goes up must come down before it goes back up again?
I think, looking at COVID, right? We had this huge increase in consumer goods as we locked everyone down. Everyone had to stay home. They had some extra funds from the stimulus, and so they were buying products. And then we saw that really drift away as soon as things start opening, and that there was inflation then in the service industry, in vacations and travel and tourism. And we've seen that kind of that peak as well after those COVID stimulus dollars and the service kind of economy peak. And it's certainly safe to say that we're seeing that decrease just in general. So you have to build that on top of what we're seeing those models comparing year over year. And then on top of that, you go back to discretionary spending and how folks are choosing to divvy up that particular pie, and perhaps even in ways that are involuntary. But that discretionary pie is getting split in different ways. And so that is going to have an effect on your travel budget, on your, leisure budget, and on purchasing goods that are not just, what you need to survive on a daily basis.
I was fascinated to be at Nevada State Bank the other day and see them offering a credit card at a 14% interest rate. Years and years and years ago, 12% was what was considered a credit-worthy interest rate. 14% is pretty darn close to that, as against the 20 to 30% interest rates you're seeing on other cards. Are you seeing the availability of credit opening up?
Not certainly at that 14%, right? We're starting to see, and we've been seeing this over the last several quarters, more and more people putting, groceries on some sort of credit line. These buy now, pay later programs that have started online. And so I wouldn't say that there's an inability to get credit. There are plenty of people who will give you credit. You're looking at more like 30, 32% interest rates. And so I think there are, again, kind of this dual economy. If you are able to qualify for a 14% credit card rate, your daily living situation is probably a lot different than someone who's putting groceries on a 32% line of credit. And so we do have this split economy. We have folks who are absolutely not making it day to day, and that's going to get harder because of actions of the federal government. And then we have folks who, to your point, Sam, are clearly enjoying the current economic climate. And so we I think just need to be cognizant that there are multiple economies moving around in Nevada.
As far as the retail industry goes, how are you doing as far as getting employees? Because with the immigration crackdown, there were already a lot of industries that were searching for people. As you're coming into the busiest season, is there an availability of people to come and work?
We believe so. If you look at the latest job numbers that came out for the last month, retail trade was one of the highest jobs net gainers of the month. So we are hiring folks. We are finding those who want to work, and we're very optimistic and looking into the holiday season that we're going to be able to find those folks who are looking for the hours.
Yeah, and I'm seeing as I go around, especially in restaurants, more and more younger people that seem to be missing from the working environment are now back in to the jobs that they would normally have.
Yeah, the unemployment rate for the youth, and I don't have that number memorized in front of me, Sam, but it is significantly higher than the general rate. I think it would be a misnomer to suggest that those folks aren't out looking for jobs. They absolutely are. They're just finding it difficult, I think, to to find them. And so, we're encouraging them as we start looking into more hiring for this winter season, that we think that availability will be there.
Are you concerned that AI is going to take away a lot of these jobs, especially the entry-level positions?
Do I think anyone is going to get fired because we implement AI into some retail supply chains? No. Do I think positions will change and will morph and transition into other things? Absolutely. And I also think it's one of these instances where the repetitive motions and the repetitive movements and these repetitive tasks that are more designed for AI and kind of robotics are the exact type of tasks that lead to injuries in employees, lead to fatigue. And so, if we can replace that and move their energy into a different area, I think that's what you're going to see as the model looking forward.
One of the things that I find fascinating, in fact, I was talking to somebody about this last night, was when Amazon bought Whole Foods. I think a lot of people were surprised that they would go into retail, and they did open up various kinds of retail branches. But now, if you buy an Amazon product and you want to return it, you can take it to Whole Foods and they will return it for you at no cost and package it and all the rest of it. Are you seeing other companies or Amazon itself looking to push out more into the retail space of actual people going to a store? Because to me, I've always felt that this was cyclical, that people are going to buy things online, but at a certain point, there's a social aspect to shopping, as well as a tactile piece of shopping where somebody wants to feel the piece of cloth. They want to sit in the chair. They want to do things. They don't want to just buy it online. What's your take on all of that?
I would say I think every individual, every consumer has things that they want to feel and touch and try on or look at and actually have that experience before they buy. And for every individual customer, that's probably going to be a different thing. I think what you've seen though is that the winner of kind of this retail apocalypse that everyone forecasted for a decade was really companies that can meet consumers at every level wherever they are all the time. It wasn't just can you survive online or can you make brick and mortar work? It was how do you leverage that entire supply chain, that last mile, to be able to make sure that if Sam wants to come into a store, he can. If Sam wants to order something online, he can. Sam wants to order it online and bring it back to the store. Any combination that Sam could think of that would make his life more convenient, retailers should be offering. And so you've seen that these winners come out are the ones that are everywhere. And so Amazon had kind of the opposite problem as the more traditional brick and mortar, right? They had this massive online presence, they had these warehouses, but that last mile, that last interaction, making sure the customer can have all of these options wasn't there. And so for Amazon to then buy a large footprint in areas that they were looking for was exactly the kind of action that we would see from a company who's trying to meet a customer everywhere.
And it's interesting to look at malls across the country. The death of malls had been predicted for years, but they're coming back and they're being very creative. What's your take on that?
Well, malls were very traditionally, right, a lot of the community's third space. They served, an incredible purpose outside of just retail. And so we've lost a lot of that as we've transitioned a lot of those spaces onto this digital world. But malls are certainly reinventing themselves. And to your point, Sam, it's more of an activity, it's an event, it's an afternoon thing that you do. You're not just running into the mall to grab a quick item because there's so many more convenient ways now to be able to do that. And so instead, it's an activity. It's a family activity. It's a stroll. My wife and I still love walking through the mall at Christmas time and doing our shopping store by store. It's just something that we've done for the last 20 years, and I don't see that changing. And so I think everyone's relationship to the mall is different, but everyone I think has a positive one.
It's funny. There was an article several years ago in the New York Times Magazine that was talking about the history of department stores. And they were talking about how initially the department store opened, it just sold you stuff. And then they put in a restaurant. And so you went shopping in the morning, had lunch, and then shopped in the afternoon. And then they put in a piano player and tea at 4 o'clock. And so you shopped in the morning, had lunch, shopped in the afternoon, had tea, listened to the piano player, and then did some more shopping. And it seems like the retail industry is reinventing itself, not necessarily with those items, but to capture, as you say, somebody going to the mall for an event day rather than just pop in and pop out.
The most incredible thing about my job in retail is we are constantly reinventing ourselves as the needs of the consumer are changing, right? These aren't things that people in retail settings are sitting going, I know the next greatest thing. We're going to put a piano. It works with talking to your customers on, well, I need an afternoon snack, or I'd prefer this, or I want the ambiance. And so we are constantly looking for that next thing that the consumers are looking for, that experience that they want. We want to be able to give it to them. And so, it's less about reinventing ourselves and more about what are those tools that we know work, that have worked for the last 100, 200 years, that we can bring in that consumers say they want back again. And how do we meld that with technology and convenience in a way that the Sears Roebuck catalog just couldn't ever imagine, Sam. But you want to talk about like kind of going full circle. You used to be able to order an entire house in the Sears Roebuck's catalog, right? You would order it, and the entire thing would come to you. You'd put it together, all the plumbing. You can now do that again on Amazon. And so I think it is a fun full circle conversation to look at.
We had a developer on the program recently talking about housing and Gen Z, and trying to figure out what Gen Z actually wants. Do they want to own houses? Do they want to rent places and not own? But they were having trouble figuring out what Gen Z wants. What does the retail industry look at when they look at Gen Z?
Well, I think when we look at Gen Z, we're looking at, almost our late 20-year-olds to late teens. And so we are already taking into account what Gen Z wants. They've had such a huge impact on culture. They've had certainly a huge impact on consumer goods, looking especially at, businesses and their ethics. They care a lot about who they're buying from, and they make sure that they are comfortable with how a company is perceived, but also how it's carrying itself. And I think that is something that we have seen, kind of the biggest hit that Gen Z has had to culture. But we've got a new generation coming up now, Gen Alpha. They are now starting to grow some economic power. They're teenagers. Certainly they're 12. If you talk about online spending and their trajectory and what those patterns look like, we're getting ready to do it all over again, Sam. And so I think Gen Z certainly has made themselves known. I think to answer the question you didn't ask me, Sam, they want houses. They want the ability to own a house. They want the American dream, just like your generation and my generation was promised. However, I think they're feeling like that was a lie. And so it'll be interesting to see if anyone can figure out how to get that generation what they want.
Doesn't it have to be where the cost becomes reasonable based on the size of the property that you're buying? And I'm not suggesting that everybody wants to live in tiny houses, but if you compare the size of a house today with the size of a house in the 1940s and 50s, it's a dramatic difference.
No, it certainly is. But we don't see a lot of people building homes that are available for folks who, and I think in order to make that analogy work, Sam, you also have to take a look at the proportion and percent of income and, the average salary versus the percent and cost of a mortgage, and the cost of a home were vastly different. And so I think you have to take that into account as well. But we don't see developers who are building 1,100 square foot homes that I know my grandparents purchased in 1955. So your point is very well taken. Have we tried building them and they've told us no? Because I think part of what the issue is there's a supply issue. They can't move into a house that doesn't exist.
To say the least. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back more with Bryan Wachter of the Retail Association after this timeout.
Welcome to Story County, where history meets innovation, and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. But it's more than just growth. Our community is our foundation, supporting families, empowering local initiatives, and creating a place where everyone belongs. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Join us in building a brighter future right here in Story County. Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain, moving 95% of our freight in the Silver State. And while essential, the road isn't always smooth. Supply chain disruptions, rising fuel costs, and unrealistic rules and laws that hamper our ability to serve our customers and country. Our prosperity and every sector of the economy, manufacturing, mining, medicine, and food from farm to table, is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
Rev it up during the $250,000 Cash and Wheels Guaranteed giveaways at Carson Valley Inn. Thousands in cash and free play every Thursday and Saturday. Drive away with a 2025 Ford Bronco or $45,000 guaranteed. Rev it up at the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Bryan Wachter. He's the president of the Retail Association of Nevada. The potential for an upcoming special session has been floated since the last session ended. Your thoughts, sir?
You know, I think there are a couple of issues. Obviously, well, there's more than a couple issues that are facing Nevadans and that are important. But we've had a development since, the federal government passed the big, beautiful bill and made some changes to some state programs. And the idea was that the federal government wasn't going to fund these anymore, that the state governments needed to step up and do that. And that's in two areas. In Medicaid, there's about a $60 million hit over 2026. And then in SNAP program, there's a $19 million hit that'll take place in October of 26. And so it is vitally important, Sam, that we get a special session to be able to address those two issues and allow IFC to be able to make the budget choices that they need to in order to solve those two problems. We talk about the economics of disposable income, and if Nevadans are having to move money into medical or into food that they're otherwise subsidized now, that is less money that they're spending on those goods and services that are generating taxes. So we think that is incredibly important to get done, and we hope the governor does it. We've heard that there are a bunch of issues that are coming up, from crime, healthcare reform, some housing. We think that there's no reason to wait. If there's consensus and there's some things that the legislature and the governor can agree to, we should do. But most importantly, we need to make sure that we're plugging those holes in those first two programs.
That would be a very long special session.
I think Nevadans are worth it, Sam.
Okay, let's take another break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Ahern Boutique Hotel, where luxury and warmth come together in the heart of Las Vegas.
We take pride in offering a one-of-a-kind experience for both locals and tourists.
Join us for handcrafted cocktails and an unforgettable experience. Joel's Chop House, the perfect place to savor views of the Las Vegas Strip.
Satisfy your cravings at the Ahern Chocolate Shop.
No smoking, no resort fees, and the parking is always free. The Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel is your home away from home.
You're in trouble with the law. It's easy to think you'll lose everything, but there is hope. I'm attorney Orrin Johnson. Your first step is to hire a serious attorney with the experience to successfully navigate the legal system for you.
Sometimes hope means addiction treatment instead of jail, and making sure you're treated fairly.
Sometimes hope means fearless trial attorneys will stand up to the government when they get it wrong. Call or text Orrin Johnson Law.
We'll make a plan.
You'll take back your life.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Bryan Wachter. He's the president of the Retail Association of Nevada. The governor's race I find fascinating. Governor Lombardo is already raised a ton of money and moving ahead. Aaron Ford has raised a ton of money and is moving ahead. And Alexis Hill, the chair of the Washoe County Commission, is getting ready to announce. Your thoughts on that? And wouldn't Harry Reid have cleared the field?
Well, thank goodness that our fields don't get cleared by anybody but voters in primaries, Sam. That's their right to be able to choose and pick. I think Aaron Ford has done some things to Nevada economy that warrant a primary, and I think Alexis Hill is a very interesting choice to be able to get that done. Certainly she's the underdog, but Nevada likes underdogs. So it'll be interesting to see how that primary shakes out. Obviously, there's no question that Governor Lombardo is going to be the nominee. It's his race to dominate. It's his race to be able to lead what that narrative is going to be, whether his opponent is Alexis or Aaron. And so I think we're in for a very fun fall. But I think we shouldn't skip over the primary. I think that's an important part of the process, Sam.
To say the least, and lots more races to discuss, but unfortunately we are out of time. Thank you for doing this as always. I will see you in October when we come down to Las Vegas, sir.
Thank you, Sam.
All right, and we'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com. You can always watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at nevadanewsmakers.com. Thanks for watching and listening.